Alrighty, Mormons. Sorry, I thought of a joke right before I started the video, having to do with Sunday, the worship of the sun. You know, if you haven't been watching my videos, you don't know the meaning of my last name. Alright, so if you've also been watching, you are aware that my parents were involved in the kidnapping of my children by their mother. She took them away to Canada. She got the divorce up in Canada. I was left out of the equation. And so then all my attempts to escape from my alt-right white supremacist parents kept failing. They kept drawing me back in. The law of magnetism. No, Captain! I've got them under gravitational pull. And so with my parents being actively involved in this, along with the church, along with the state of Utah, etc., my life was made miserable because with the divorce came the Office of Recovery Services being notified to garnish my paycheck. And at first, they took more than 50%. They're not allowed by law to take more than 50% of my paycheck. But my paycheck was already at minimum wage. And so yes, the mindset here in Utah is to compel the deadbeat dad to get a better job. Yeah, get a better job so that you can pay for your family. Yeah, that's easy, isn't it? Oh, I'll just quit my full-time job at McDonald's and go get a lawyer job. Is your job available by chance? The abuse in Utah is just mind-boggling. And so, yeah, my life was ruined on that first paycheck after the divorce was finalized. An Office of Recovery Services was notified, and arrears. I knew none of this stuff. You know, I was a victim, and here I was being further victimized. And so I was living in a shared apartment. You know, a guy who wanted to cut the costs of his apartment was leasing out the room in that apartment. I don't know if it was legal for him to do that. I don't know. I'm sure it was okay, but I could no longer afford to live there. That was probably the cheapest rent that there was. He even offered to lower the rent to help me out. That's how good of a friend he was. But it was still, I was ruined financially with the garnishment, and and so yeah, my only option was the streets. Can't pay, have to go to the streets. Well, I was just starting to build up my property after it was all taken away from me. And so I was not willing to just roll over and die. And so I made sure that my parents would be held accountable for what they caused, along with everybody else, but they also caused. And so I just moved right into my parents' basement again. And so, yeah, they took me in, and I still had a job, so they were fine with that. And there was no way I was going to make them charge me for staying there, you know. So I was living there for free, and they offered food, but there was no way I was going to associate with them. So I hid down in the basement, and then of course they didn't like that, and eventually they were in a position where they were wanting to retire and thus move out of their suburban home, and wanted to get a little retirement house to retire in. And so they weren't going to take me with them. So again, I was pressured with the concept of being kicked to the streets by my own parents again. They'd already done it right before my first wife decided to leave. That's how she did it. She set up a scenario to blame me when she was the one to blame. And that's a different story for another day. And so, yeah, my parents were all about ruining my life, utterly assisting in my murder. That's how evil Utah Mormons are. They don't care who they step on, who they murder to get their lives. And so, yeah, remember that. So now let's go to a different scenario. In South Jordan, because I was living in Riverton, there are a couple of schools, grade schools, and thus school zones. And if you're familiar with driving, when you enter a school zone, the speed dramatically lowers. You can't drive past, I think it's 25, or yeah, I think it's 25, 35 when there's no school in session for a residential area that's on a main fairway, but 25 in a residential and 25 in a school zone. And so I was just going about wherever I was going that day, and decided to take that road because that street had the light on Redwood, whereas 118th didn't have a light on Redwood. You had to wait for traffic. And so I thought it would be wiser to go down that road. However, there's a school zone, so it was sort of a compromise of slowing down for the school zone versus lights on Redwood Road. And needless to say, I no longer took that route after this incident. On this road, right before the stop sign, or the speed sign indicating that it's a school zone, and the light flashing for warning that's a school zone, there was a pothole. Yeah, conveniently smoothed out pothole. Huh. Isn't that interesting? A smoothed out pothole. How'd that happen? That's an unusual feat of nature. Maybe that should be a 7 Wonders. Yes, it was a speed trap. The cops all knew it. Everybody knows it. Because it has to do with the law of gravity. Force equals mass times acceleration. That's a law of nature. It's, you know, you can't violate the law of nature. And so everybody who passes over this smoothed out pothole will increase speed as they go down. And it's just right there at the sign. And so if you are below the speed, you'll still go above the speed limit by dipping down into this pothole for just a split second. And the cop had been posted there. He was a rookie cop. Yeah, rookie cop trying to earn his wings. You know, I'm gonna get these evil speedsters in a school zone. Who's gonna protect our children? I am. So yeah, they were a horrible thing here in South Jordan. Utahns know very well South Jordan and what's it called right below Bountiful? It's not Crossroads. Can't think of the city name. But those two places are well known in Utah for being speed traps and abusive cops. So, yeah, I got to find out firsthand why everybody was saying that. And so, yes, the cop pulled me over. And I was like, what's going on? What did I do? And so he tells me that I was speeding. And I'm going, no, I wasn't. I was arguing with him because I wasn't doing anything wrong. I didn't run over a little kid. There were no kids present. You know, there was that pothole that was smoothed out where he was scanning me, and apparently the scanner stops once you violate the speed limit. So it doesn't go back down when your speed goes down. It stops once your speed is at a certain rate. And sure enough, that's what happened. I hit the dip, went down, speed increased, his scanner stopped at the highest speed. It was 4 miles over the speed limit. The judge chastised him for that, to be a little more lenient and wait for 5 miles over the speed limit. Yes, I took him to court. And so yes, I know all about how our rights are denied by having police roaming the streets without a warrant, without specifically identifying who they're looking for, what they're looking for, and where they're looking for. That's necessity. That's in the Constitution. And cops violate this daily. They just disregard the Constitution and our rights. They do not belong on the streets. They need to go back to their station until we call 911. Just like a firefighter, just like an EMT. But yet they need to make money. Oh, what are they gonna do if we don't have them roaming the streets collecting quota tickets? Yeah. That's been a problem in Utah too. People are accusing the police on many occasions of quotas, and police officers pressured to get quotas, meet quotas. So yeah, so I had to argue with the judge, and the judge, and of course the court-appointed lawyer for the police department, yeah, I was the victim, but the police officer, because I protested the ticket, got the court-appointed lawyer in accordance with the Bill of Rights. See how messed up that is? And so yeah, they were both ignorant of the law of gravity, and I had pictures of the pothole, and they were like clueless. I don't see a problem. But the judge was willing to be on my side, but he was clueless on the law of gravity. Notice it wasn't a jury of peers either. It's a judge. Another violation of the Constitution. And the judge, he wanted to be nice to me. And so he says, I suspect there's something wrong going on here, but I'm going to lower the cost of the ticket. Oh, gee, thanks. And so instead of $120, I had to pay $80. I didn't have $80. And so, yeah. Unbelievable. And so this gets me to Mormons and their abuse. If you haven't caught on that there's already abuse by Mormons here in these stories. There's a law, a universal law, Mormons. You know it, you preach it. Christians know it, they preach it. Jews know it, they preach it. It's love. That's the universal law, love. And you may think, well, that's an emotion, that's feelings. You can't quantify that in a physical formula. You think so? Yes, you can. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Ooh. Ooh. So there you go. Travis Wayne Goodsell has quantified love in a math formula. And so, yes, if you've watched the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, not the new one with Amy Adams, is it? No, the old original one. Matthew McConaughey, E-A-I-O, asked Jodie Foster, do you love your father? She says, yes, of course I do. Prove it. Oh no, he's caught me trapped in a quandary. As a scientist, she's in an, I can't remember the word she uses, but she has to follow the law of physics. And so here comes Matthew's character, and he's a man of the cloth, just without the cloth. You have to watch the movie. If you haven't seen it, you don't understand. and so, yeah, he's trying to convince her that all she needs is faith. She doesn't need all of the proof in science. And so, yeah, it's a great movie for understanding that no, faith has to lead to the conclusions, because there were 18 hours of blank tape that was recorded. 18 hours, even though she fell right through. 18 hours. She didn't just fall through, as we therefore realize. And so she did actually go through a wormhole for 18 hours, as she indicated. And they were trying to tell her she was wrong. She did not go somewhere for 18 hours. But she did, because there's evidence of 18 hours of blank recording. So, yeah, take that, Christians and Mormons. Even though the wormhole concept is false. But anyway, but it makes for a great TV show called Stargate, SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe. Alright, so anyway, but yes, love is quantified in the formula of, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So notice that there has to be an action that takes place. When you love someone, you act on it. You don't just have the feeling and never share it. If you love someone, you have to share it. And if you don't share it, that too is an action that will result in an equal and opposite reaction. Which means you really don't love. If you keep it to yourself, you don't love. You're a hypocrite. And so Mormons, you know this. You know that's the law of God. Ooh, wow. And yet the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has all these other commandments. Ooh, just like the Pharisees, huh? But Jesus came, and the whole message of the Gospels is all these Pharisaical laws are making things worse. They're not demonstrating love. They're violating the law of love. Even though they were designed to protect the law of love, they, in result, were violating it, because people were getting punished for the standards of the Pharisees. Oh, here it comes. You catch that word, Mormons? When there was no love violated. And so, yeah, here we go, Mormons. For strength of the youth, the standards of the church, and all the traditions that have been added by the Mormons to not drink caffeine. I will drink my Mountain Dew. You will not stop me. By drinking Mountain Dew, it does not mean that I hate you. But according to Mormons, yeah, oh, you're a sinner. You're drinking caffeine. You're violating the word of wisdom. Do you see what you're doing? You're making a judgment on people for violating standards, not the law of love. Do you catch it, Mormons? All these videos, I'm pointing out the abuse of Mormons, abuse of the church, the lack of love. And as a result, what are you doing to my channel? Thumbs down! I don't like your tone! Oh, so here I am pointing out that you don't love, that you are violating the law of God. Not just for the Mormons, but for Jews and Christians, and I'm pretty sure Muslims, because they believe in the Bible too, but they have the Quran as their Book of Mormon. Yeah. Mormons weren't the first to come up with an idea of a different scripture to lead and guide their church. And so, yeah, love. It's always been the universal law for mankind. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And so, Mormons, you are the cause of hatred. I am responding equally with an opposite reaction of, stop it, you're hating me, I will not let you abuse me. I'm not going, oh, please don't hurt me, I'm sorry, I'll conform to your slave god. No, I'm standing up against your abuse. You don't like that, do you? And so, thumbs down, comments, I don't like your tone. Yeah. Do you see how that works? That's the formula. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. All you had to do was stop your hatred. And I wouldn't be able to comment, Mormons are haters. Because you're not, if that were the case. But because you are haters, I respond with an equal and opposite reaction of Mormons are haters. I'm a victim of it. Others are victims of it. They left the church. And you keep going after them because you hate. It's that simple, Mormons. Equal and opposite reaction. If you don't want to be persecuted as a religion, you need to start loving. That's all the church has to do. If the church doesn't want to have bulletproof glass in their church administration building, If the church president doesn't want to have security 24/7 standing outside his door across the street in the upper apartment on the left side, yes, I know exactly where they live. If they, you know, all they have to do is love. People will respond with an equal and opposite reaction to love. You know, the conflict in the Middle East, conflict in Syria, the conflict in Iran, the conflict in Russia, different in Russia, but for the Middle East, mostly Islam, different sects and whatever, but Islam, they follow the Quran. In the Quran, if you've ever read it, you're not really supposed to read it. It's supposed to be internalized by Muslims so that they memorize it, in essence. And their prayers are the recitation of the Quran. All their prayers are. The Quran is one big prayer book. But in the Quran, even though they recognize the subhuman category of heathens who are not of Islam, they nevertheless allow heathens to exist unless the heathens attack them. Then Muslims are then justified in retaliating, equal and opposite reaction. But then they allow them to take it too far and say that Muslims are justified in completely annihilating the person who violated them and their families and their children and their dog. Complete annihilation if they're violated by an individual or a people. And so if you've never read the Quran, you don't understand this. President Bush did not understand this. Leave Saddam Hussein alone. He was warned. Don't touch him. Leave him alone. He is keeping these terrorist sects at bay. He keeps them suppressed. Leave him alone. Don't touch him. So what does he do? I got Saddam Hussein! Yay! We're gonna hang him! Yay! Vacuum created. So then Al-Qaeda emerges. Al-Qaeda was the one who was involved with the Bush family in the first place. So yeah, there's a conflict of interest there, isn't there? Remove Saddam Hussein to elevate Osama bin Laden, who is buddies with the Bush family. Didn't know that? Inconvenient, or not inconvenient truth, it's the Fahrenheit 9/11. I understand has that. I have yet to see that. I saw part of Fahrenheit 11/9, and so yeah, I learned that Bernie Sanders actually won the votes, but the representatives decided, no, we don't want Bernie to win, we want Hillary. So that was news to me. So it should have been Bernie for president. But anyway. Yeah, so law of love, people. All we have to do is love. And as you can see, hatred is widespread. And now we have in the Mormon Church the DesNat group. They are a terrorist group of Mormons on Twitter. They are promoting the murder of apostates. Me. I'm seen as an apostate by Mormons. They want to murder me. They don't specifically call me out by name yet. But that's what they want to do. They want me to conform to the laws of the church, to follow the prophets. No, guys. No. love. You do not place a man above the law of love. The president of the church cannot violate the law of love. We're not supposed to have standards anymore. We're not supposed to have Pharisaical laws anymore. Remember, Jesus, fulfillment of the law, it's now love. And so, in religion, you're not supposed to have word of wisdom. Jesus fulfilled the law of love. And besides, we've got cooking technologies now that prevent us from getting parasites from eating pig. We can now have bacon. Woo! Although, the newsroom, the main star in that, he was eating bacon, and he was telling this to his psychiatrist. So, yeah, there was a scene yesterday that I saw. Anyway. But he was saying something in bacon causes a person to be depressed. I'm sorry, I never get depressed by eating bacon. Give me more, give me more, give me more. I wish bacon would lower their prices so that I can have more bacon. Nevertheless and notwithstanding. So do you get it, Mormons? You can't hate people. You can't hate me for complaining about your hatred. You need to love. Because you are now the cause of the destruction of the United States of America. It is hatred that is the wickedness of the latter days. Men's hearts shall grow cold. Hatred. That's how we destroy ourselves. It's not God doing it. I already did another video, several videos, where I point out from passage of Alma chapter 3, I believe, about the Amlicites, who mark themselves in their forehead, just like the sign of the beast, the mark of the beast in Revelation chapter 13. The Amlicites marked themselves in their forehead, and they became cursed. And then Mormon steps in and says, I want you to understand here that though they understood it as the curse of God, it was not God who cursed them. They brought upon themselves their curse. God had nothing to do with it. It's just the universal law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. The law of God. And that's how it works, Mormons. And so, yes, there have been prophets getting up at the pulpit saying, we cannot overturn the consequences of the latter days. We cannot overturn the prophecies. Yes, you can. But the reason why it's a prophecy is because of evil. And it's easy to overcome. You just stop being evil. But Mormons can't do that. And thus the prophecies are fulfilled with Mormons. Doctrine and Covenants, section 1, verse 16. Mormons are the cause of the corruption of the church. Nobody else goes to the temple and makes covenants. Only Mormons do. So go back and read it. 14, 15, and then 16. When you walk in your own way, you create your own God. And it's Mormons he's referring to. 14 and 15 talk about temple violations. The rest of the world have not made covenants in the temple. It's Mormons that Joseph Smith is receiving Revelation from God to tell the Mormons. Notice the date of the revelation, chapter 1 or section 1, before the temple was created, huh? So there you go. Mormons hate and cause the destruction of the world. All you need is love. Dun, 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 dun. Shot in the back. Very sad. Independence Day. Alrighty. So, another video. I warned you guys. All you had to do was love. But you couldn't do that. You kept attacking me. Bishop Reed Hammond couldn't love. He gave me an ultimatum threat. I warned you guys. The gloves are coming off. That video is doing fairly well. But some others that I've done recently are doing very, very well. And so, yes, everybody will know the church is a fraud. They don't love. It's the end of the world as we know it. I feel fine. Alrighty. So here we go on the worship of the sun. The worship of the day of the sun. It's the Sabbath day that Jesus established. No, he didn't. He always worshiped the Sabbath on Saturday. Jesus did not change that day. Constantine did. And then a pope changed the calendar. So, know your history, people. And then you have Nelson who gets up, we will obey the Sabbath. God established the first day as the Sabbath day of rest. No, he didn't. So, again, a false prophet trying to impose a law of God that isn't a law of God. Oops. Just exposed himself again as a fraudulent president of the church. So, have fun this Sabbath day. I already am.